Why are you asking for trusted adults
Well,
constantly?
in many ways, trans operates like a religion. This is why I say it's a cult. This is why I call myself an apostate, right? Trans has many mechanisms that operate almost on a spiritual level, if you think about it. You let your old self die, your dead name. You let go of your old self and you're reborn, you're new, you're embracing your true self, right? This is like being a born again Christian. Like you are going through a rebirth. And that rebirth comes with its own community, with its belief set, with its
Mhm.
culture. And that's again where autistic people get sucked right in because you have that community, you have that connection, right? At the same time, like it's teaching you that anybody who doesn't accept your new identity is bad. They're rejecting you. They're not embracing your true self, right? And they teach people to isolate, to cut off those who actually genuinely love them. And the thing is the people who are actually pushing back against you are people who are genuinely, love you and care about you. They are genuinely concerned about your well-being. But the culture of trans says that concern is hate, so you have to
Right.
cut them off. And this is actually what's another thing that's really funny is the average regret time for post-gonadectomy, for transition, for my demographic was 8 to 10 years. The average time someone spends embedded in a cult is 8 to 10 years.
Wow. And then what
Mm-hmm.
happens when they get out? I mean, because you've destroyed a lot of relationships, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know how many people, especially if they're friends, family may be different, but I think 8 to 10 years is still a long time to have, to be considered evil.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I guess in a way, that's the silver lining of having a really damaged family and a dark past. Like, I didn't have much of a relationship with most of my family. And the family I do have a relationship with is very loving and supportive because they weren't the ones who got to raise me. And, I wouldn't have gone through this if the other side of my family had raised me. Um, so I have the good part of my family in my life, and the bad part of my family probably wouldn't have been a relationship that would have been maintained without trans. And I had such an abnormal childhood that I didn't have a lot of friends as a kid. I was isolated and abused. I was in and out of hospitals and institutions because of the trauma, which is actually really interesting. I got diagnosed within a year of being diagnosed with PTSD from CSA. Um,
That's when you got diagnosed being trans?
yeah, within a year of getting out of the hospital, I spent a year and a half in a residential institution because of what happened to me as a kid, and getting treatment for that. When I was when I was like 15, I checked myself into an institution, got diagnosed, got treatment, got out, was on my own shortly thereafter, and was learning about trans just after that.
So, I believe it's Sweden. I could be wrong about the country, so don't quote me on that, but I believe that it's Sweden that originally had the first, like, transitioning clinics, and before you could go through surgery, you needed, like, 7 years of therapy,
Yeah.
and that just changed all of a sudden? Why would that change when those were the people who had the best outcomes?
Well, because as the result of activism, they watered down all the gatekeeping and they depathologized trans. That's what they did. They watered down the gatekeeping, they depathologized it, they promoted an affirmation model. But even before the affirmation model, it was still foundationally flawed because gender identity isn't a real concept. It's not something that's proven. It's purely in people's head. And so they were modifying people's bodies to affirm delusions for 100 years and nobody cared. But that's not an ethical thing to do, and we don't do that with any other mental illness. We don't go around telling anorexics that they are fat and then offering them liposuction. We don't allow doctors to do amputations on people with body integrity disorder just because they feel like they shouldn't have that arm or leg. But we do this with gender identity, and it's completely illogical. And like from the
And it's the
beginning.
most violent.
It's very violent,
I
incredibly
mean, it's
violent.
the
It's the destruction
when you said it,
of your
when you
sex. It's the destruction of your
yeah,
genitals, of your gonads, of your
yeah,
reproductive ability, of your health, and all of that in the name of affirming a delusion. And then it gets even more insidious when you start to look at trans history and you realize that they've never actually tried to figure out what trans is in an efficient, like they've never gone at the root of the problem. As it stands, we have 120 years of history, 125 years of history that says that trans is multiple things, that gender identity is caused by multiple paths, that nonconformity is caused by multiple things. And all throughout the DSM, we've never differentiated homosexuals with trauma or any of the different motivating factors for homosexual transition from autogynephilic transitioners, which are obviously very real concept. I mean, it's observable by anyone who looks at the framework of autogynephilia that autogynephilia is a percentage of people who transitions, but we don't diagnose it.
I wanna break that down a little bit. Remember, my audience tends to be those moms, grandparents, whatever, who are
Okay.
just like, "What's going on?" So, the first thing is what's DSM?
The DSM is the diagnostic standards for basically it's the manual for diagnosing someone with a condition, psychological condition, and the problem with trans and with gender dysphoria is nothing more than a list of symptoms, right? And multiple different conditions can qualify you for this list of symptoms. I was diagnosed under the DSM 4. What caused my discomfort was CSA, PTSD reactions to my genitals, rumination throughout my childhood around trauma and gender nonconformity that led to cross sex ideation. It's all psychological, it's all environmental, what caused me to be this way, right? But we didn't diagnose the why behind
Right,
why I felt that way. And nowadays we treat that as conversion therapy. And I think really this mindset has happened as the result of activism. And why has this happened? Why have they been fighting to basically not ask why people feel this way? The reason they've been fighting is right here on the shelf. It's Magnus Hirschfeld. It's trans history. It's the erotic drive to cross dress. All the way back through trans history, they've always split males who had gender identity issues into multiple different demographics. There was always homosexuals who were homosexuals. Sorry, I've been on TikTok too much.
you're okay.
Homosexuals who are non-conforming and have various different reasons for cross-sex ideation. A lot of it being trauma-based and not fitting into a sexist traditionalist society as an atypical male. And then you have the erotic drive to cross dress, what Blanchard coined as autogynephilia. And these two things have always run alongside each other, and both of these groups have always transitioned under the same framework. Back to DSM transsexualism, to gender identity disorder, to gender dysphoria. Homosexual transsexuals and autogynephilic transsexuals have both always transitioned under one label, which is really the problem. We have a generalized label that's been watered down and made more general. We have an ideology that's promoted the concept of not asking the question why, because asking why is bigotry. And embedded within the ideology, we have a group of men with very perverse motivations for wanting to live this life. And you add all that together with the activism, and you see how we got here. This is why I'm the transphobic historian, and why reading trans history caused me to crack and detransition.
How did that feel to know, like, I mean, were you just one day living your life and then the next day you're like, "What the hell did I get myself into?"
No, no, that
Okay.
felt like getting canceled as a left wing Bernie-crat working on a Jewish candidate for city council and getting canceled by the trans community and called a Nazi, even though I'm the right hand man of the only Jewish candidate for city council, and then going, what the heck is going on with trans people? Getting
Mhm.
online, talking to some turfs, And a lot of research, almost like
And
this
for those of
form,
you who don't know, a TERF is a trans exclusionary feminist.
a trans
Um,
exclusionary radical
Radical.
feminist or an impacted woman. Any woman that says something that upsets a trans person.